starting with 1 million luck points. Chapter 371, Little You. Zhou frowned. He was a little depressed that he had not found all of them. However, no matter what, Zhou still felt that the 1,000 feather armor was too heaven-defying. He should take advantage of the fact that he had just unlocked the shop to get this item. After all, the 1,000 feather armor was a combination of offense and defense. The armor could both defend and attack. Moreover, it could resist the strength of 5,000 kilograms. Its 1,000 feathers saber could also kill enemies. It could be said that it was a very comprehensive treasure. Most importantly, this 1,000 feather had a pair of wings. When used, it could make its user extremely fast. Zhou looked at it and realized that it was even faster than his golden crow escape technique. What kind of concept was this? Zhou could not imagine it. Thinking of this, Zhou directly exchanged 100 billion Heaven Dao coins for 10,000 mystery boxes and prepared to draw. Although the drop rate of this diamond mystery box was very low, it was more certain than the platinum mystery box. Opening the mystery box, he entered the cultivation technique, weapons, and so on, just like the platinum mystery box. Moreover, this time, he was directly filling in the name. If he wanted something, he could directly enter it. After entering it, there would be a certain probability for it to drop. Even if it did not drop, there would still be many other rewards. Zhou did not say a word and directly entered the 1,000 feather armor and the god-destroying art into the box. Then, he began to open the mystery box. Compared to the platinum mystery box, the diamond mystery box was more private. Only users above gold could see it. No one else could see Zhou's reward. Congratulations on opening the mystery box and obtaining a rare level item, Violent Dragon Armor. This item has been placed in your backpack. Please take note. Congratulations on opening the mystery box and obtaining a rare level item, Blood Paint Cultivation Technique. This item has been placed in your backpack. Please take note. Congratulations on opening the mystery box and obtaining a rare level item, Silver Dragon Armor. This item has been placed in your backpack. Please take note. Congratulations on opening the mystery box and obtaining a rare level item, 7-star Armor. This item has been placed in your backpack. Please take note. Congratulations on opening the mystery box and obtaining a rare level item, Flame Armor. This item has been placed in your backpack. Please take note. Zhou crazily opened the diamond mystery box, but there were not many things that he wanted. Most of them were other armor and cultivation techniques. There was no god-destroying art or 1,000 feather armor he wanted. Congratulations on opening the mystery box and obtaining the legendary item, Ice Emperor Armor. This item has been placed in your backpack. Please take note. At this moment, Zhou's expression changed as he saw the Ice Emperor Armor. This armor was a legendary level treasure. It had actually reached the 10th level. Moreover, this armor had a 100% compatibility with the ice muscle body. This made Zhou extremely happy. Su Ling had the ice muscle body. This was perfect for her. Zhou hurriedly put it away, prepared to find an opportunity to give this treasure to Su Ling. Without hesitation, he continued to open the mystery box. The diamond mystery box was indeed extraordinary, and it also consumed a lot of luck points. In just a few minutes, he had lost half of his luck points, but he had yet to obtain the 1,000 feather armor. Zhou took a deep breath. He was really unwilling to give up at this moment. Although Zhou was unwilling, the public chat was still flooded. The gold users saw Zhou and the others on the screen and immediately cheered. I'm just an ordinary big shot. I'm too powerful. You just opened the mall and now you're opening the mystery box again. Moreover, there are so many rare level treasures. I'm just an ordinary person. I worship the big shot. Ha ha ha, the big shot is indeed extraordinary. He will definitely be recorded in the history books today. They kept flooding the screen crazily, but Zhou Hao ignored them and began to open the mystery box crazily. Zhou Hao was determined to get the 1,000 feather armor. He did not care even if he had to spend all his money and luck points. However, since Zhou Hao had opened so many rare level treasures, he would not lack money. The only thing he needed was luck points. However, as long as he could obtain the 1,000 feather armor, Zhou Hao would immediately step into the heaven realm. He already had the cultivation technique god-slaying art and had also learned Genesis runes. With the 1,000 feather armor, killing a quasi-heaven realm expert would be as easy as slaughtering a dog. As long as he was careful, what harm was there in killing a few? With this in mind, Zhou Hao crazily opened the mystery box. Finally, with a beep, Zhou Hao's expression changed. Congratulations on opening the mystery box and obtaining the king level item 1,000 feather armor fragment. This item has been placed in your backpack. Please take note. Seeing this, Zhou Hao was incomparably excited. Without hesitation, he opened his backpack and investigated. However, Zhou Hao's face twitched when he saw it. How was this the 1,000 feather armor? In his eyes, wasn't this just a pile of trash? Not only was it covered in blood, but it also looked rusty. Zhou Hao felt like he had been tricked, but Zhou Hao couldn't just throw it away. After all, he had spent a lot of luck points and Heaven Dao coins to obtain this. Therefore, he gritted his teeth and opened it. 1,000 feather armor activated. Host, please drop your blood onto it. Just as he opened it, an ethereal voice without any emotions sounded. Zhou Hao blinked. He knew that this was the artifact spirit of the 1,000 feather armor. He did not expect it to still be alive after being turned into such trash. Thinking of this, Zhou Hao did not hesitate to drip blood and leave his imprint. In an instant, Zhou Hao felt as if he was waving his finger at this 1,000 feather armor. At the same time, he could sense how serious the armor's injuries were. Hello, Master. I'm Little Yu. After successfully recognizing its master, the artifact spirit of the 1,000 feather armor actually opened its mouth to speak. From the looks of it, it still had some intelligence. Little Yu, you're so severely injured now. How can I help you recover? Zhou Hao asked. Master, I need to absorb the heaven and earth essence energy to repair myself. You can repair yourself. Zhou Hao was immediately shocked when he heard this. Yes, Master. I am able to repair myself, the weapon spirit said immediately. Zhou Hao was somewhat surprised. He thought for a moment and asked, Little Yu, did the 1,000 feather armor really get divided into 8 parts? What are they? And what are you? Which part do you belong to? Zhou Hao asked this because he wanted to understand the situation with the 1,000 feather armor. Master, there are a total of 8 parts to the 1,000 feather armor. The other 7 parts of the 1,000 feather armor are all mobilized by me. However, Little Yu is severely injured and has already forgotten the functions of the other 7 parts. Only by finding the other parts and completing the fusion can Little Yu recover to its original state. Hearing this, Zhou Hao took a deep breath and was somewhat depressed. He did not expect it to be like this. Alright, I'll help you recover first. Tell me, what should I do to get you to recover? Zhou Hao asked. Chapter 372, Discussion. Master, I need a large amount of pure essence energy to recover. Zhou Hao nodded and took out the platinum level energy bar. Can this thing help you? With that said, Zhou Hao saw the 1,000 feathered armor in his backpack sweep past a light and shine on the platinum level energy bar. Sorry, Master. This thing's energy is too low and can't help me. When Zhou Hao saw this, he was immediately depressed. After all, the platinum level energy bar was a precious item in his eyes. Thinking of this, Zhou Hao took out a rare level energy bar. What about this thing? The light swept past before Little Yu said. This is fine, but I'll need 99.9 million of them. Damn! Even with Zhou Hao's calm temper, he still cursed. With so many, it would be useless even if Zhou Hao sold his kidney. Zhou Hao gritted his teeth and could only take out the essence energy ancestral stone. This is the most precious resource I have. Take a look and see if this works. After Zhou Hao finished speaking, a light swept past and little Yu said. This is fine. I will need 33,000 of them. Zhou Hao was still freaking depressed. 33,000 ancestral stones was not a small amount. The Iron Bone Bear King had many, but he did not have that many energy bars. Could it be that he needed to get them by force? Zhou Hao blinked and realized that he had no other choice. By the way, what can you do before you recover? Zhou Hao felt a little regretful now. If the Amor could not use anything now, wouldn't it be a huge scam? Master, little Yu needs to recover 30% of its function before it can be used. 30% all right, I'll think of a way for you. As Zhou Hao spoke, he left his backpack and the Heaven Dao software. Although he had lost the identity of President Zhou, Zhou Hao was still relatively content to have obtained the Heaven Dao software's shop feature and the 1000 feather armor. Now, he only had two goals. First, he wanted to recover the 1000 feather armor and second, break through to the Heaven realm. His strength was still not enough. If it was enough, he would not need any Genesis runes to help him. If he could kill the Wasteland Barbaric Flood Dragon with a single slash, he could have avoided becoming a wanted man. Even so, it was too late for regrets. With such an unforeseen event happening in the 7th Spatial Rift, the elite teams were sent back to the capital without training. On the way, they had also asked Bai Linglong many questions. However, Zhou Hao knew that Bai Linglong was in a bad mood. He could see that she constantly had a worried expression. This made him feel a little uncomfortable. Unexpectedly, Bai Linglong seemed to be feeling sad. Could it be that this woman had fallen for him? Zhou Hao coughed dryly and hurriedly threw this thought to the back of his mind. Not many people knew that President Zhou was wanted. This news was only circulated above the quasi-heaven realm. Even the majority of the supernatural experts did not know. At this moment, in a grand hall in the 1st Spatial Rift, 7 armored warriors were sitting at 7 round tables. Their auras were extraordinary and incomparably powerful. There were a total of 7 flags behind each of them. If Zhou Hao were here, he would definitely be able to recognize one of them. Among the flags, there was a green flag with a picture of floating clouds. This was the Green Cloud Division. The person who represented the Green Cloud Division to participate in the meeting this time was Zhou. However, at this moment, Zhu's expression was somewhat anxious and worried. The 7 people represented the 7 factions. Sitting at the easternmost side was the flag of these 7 leaders. There was a picture of red flames on it. This was the leader of the 7 factions, the Red Flame Division. It was also the largest faction of the human race on planet Earth and played an important role in the entire human race. At this moment, an old man in red was sitting there with a bamboo hat. His expression was indifferent as he spoke after a long time. We haven't had a meeting in a long time. Although this meeting was a little rushed today, we still have to hold it. Heavenly King Zhou, explain the situation. The old man said simply and looked at Zhou. Zhou took a deep breath and looked at everyone as they stood up. He bowed from afar and said, Everyone should know about the incident at the 7th Spatial Rift. The machine race created a virus and built a tower. On that day, the war in our other spatial rifts was in a stalemate. What happened only happened for the sake of the 7th Spatial Rift. The situation is very bad. This is what everyone saw in the video. We have suffered many casualties. However, compared to the mutated beasts, the casualties are still minimal. They lost a total of 6 quasi-heaven realm experts, and each of them was a powerful general. However, they were killed by a single human martial artist. This person is President Zhou. After saying this, Zhou Hao appeared on the screen. However, his armor covered his face, preventing others from seeing him clearly. This person is President Zhou. He killed 6 quasi-heaven realm mutated beasts and contributed greatly. However, this person cultivated the power of the Genesis runes prohibited by us humans and mutated beasts. At the critical moment, President Zhou used the power of the Genesis runes to destroy the tower and save all the human cultivators who were infected by the virus. After doing so, he also attracted the big shot to make a move. In the end, however, President Zhou managed to escape. This is the purpose of today's meeting. We also need to discuss whether we should give President Zhou a wanted status. With that said, Zhou sat down. However, anyone could tell that Zhou was still very protective of President Zhou. This was only natural. After all, President Zhou had helped Zhou a lot. Moreover, simply based on his battle results, President Zhou had indeed contributed a lot to the human race. However, he had cultivated a forbidden technique and learned the Genesis runes. This was not an orthodox power. Anyone who cultivated this power would be seen as betraying the human race and all the martial artists in the world. This was understandable. Zhou was very worried. He did not want Zhou to become a wanted man at all, but he did not dare to say it out loud. He could only put Zhou's contributions in front of them and hope that they would be touched. However, he was still thinking too much. If you cultivate a forbidden technique like a Genesis rune, you will become the enemy of our human race. My suggestion is that we kill him. After saying this, many people nodded. Others might not know about the incident that happened before, but they knew. Back then, a heaven realm expert known as Murongsun secretly learned Genesis runes. We had already killed him, but now, another one has appeared. If we don't get rid of the Genesis runes, we won't be able to rest assured at all. I suggest that we immediately capture President Zhou and destroy all his cultivation to completely end the Genesis rune inheritance. They spoke at once, but most of them still wanted to kill President Zhou. When Zhou heard this, he became even more anxious. Everyone, don't forget that President Zhou saved the 7th spatial rift. Without him, the territory of the humans on planet Earth might have been divided into 2 from today onwards. Chapter 373, Dark Tide. Although Zhou was also worried about the power of the Genesis rune, he was more worried about President Zhou's safety. How many times had President Zhou fought in the front lines? How could such a person attack humans? He could not agree to it. Not only him, but all the soldiers in the 13th spatial rift, the 12th spatial rift, and the 7th spatial rift would also not agree. President Zhou, who was fighting for them, was about to be targeted by the higher UPS and even arrested and eliminated. No one would accept such a thing. Heavenly King Zhou, have you forgotten the common agreement? This is not something that only concerns our human race. There are also the foreign races. Do you think the foreign races will agree to us nurturing Genesis rune warriors? Not far from Heavenly King Zhou, the representative of another division spoke directly with a hint of blame. They were aware that President Zhou was extraordinary, but everyone present also knew about the secret that had been hidden. Naturally, they did not want something like that to happen again. However, I still believe that President Zhou is definitely not that kind of person. Moreover, we only have the documents stating that the expert who cultivated the Genesis rune back then wanted to destroy the world, but that might not have anything to do with the Genesis rune. It could have been his own intentions. We can't solely make our decision based on what happened back then and treat everyone who cultivates Genesis runes as villains. Zhou still could not help but speak up. He was very grateful to Zhou. Without Zhou, many crises would not have been resolved. Not to mention the 7th spatial rift this time, even the crisis of 12th and 13th was the same. He was not going to kick Zhou to the curb simply because he had outlived his usefulness. Moreover, Zhou felt that there was something wrong with jumping to conclusions without understanding anything. Heavenly King Zhou, you're being a little extreme in this matter. Our intention is only to capture President Zhou. If there's no problem, we naturally won't hurt him. However, at present, this is not something that we humans can confirm. After the foreign races learn it of this news, they will also want to negotiate with our higher UPS. After all, that previous mighty figure has almost destroyed 70% of the foreign race's citizens. The foreign races are very afraid that history will repeat itself. What we need to do now is to find President Zhou. We can discuss the rest later. How about that? The representatives of the various divisions also had this thought. The leader of the divisions also nodded. Since that's the case, let's vote and decide if we should arrest him or not. As he spoke, he looked at everyone. Other than Zhou, everyone raised their hands. Their meaning was obvious. They all wanted to arrest Zhou. Zhou's expression was very ugly. He represented the Green Cloud Division. Most of their Green Cloud Division were experts who resisted the spatial rift. Others might not know, but he knew that President Zhou would fight to the death with them. But now, he was actually unable to even protect President Zhou's safety. He was furious. Humph! Zhou's expression was very ugly. He slammed the table and left. As soon as he walked out, Bai Zhenhai hurriedly welcomed him. Senior Zhou, how did it go? Bai Zhenhai was also very anxious. However, Zhou's expression was incomparably ugly, making Bai Zhenhai understand immediately. What? They still want to arrest President Zhou? But he didn't do anything wrong to the human race. Bai Zhenhai was very indignant. If not for President Zhou, the 7th spatial rift would have definitely been occupied. Even he, Bai Zhenhai, might not have survived. However, at this moment, President Zhou, who had saved the 7th spatial rift, was actually wanted. Bai Zhenhai was also very sad. Humph, a bunch of pedantic people. I really can't get them to understand. Zhou was furious, but what could he do? Now that the showdown had ended, there was nothing he could do no matter how indignant he was. Zhenhai, we have to find President Zhou first. As long as we find him, everything will be fine. He has helped us so much. We definitely can't hand him over to the higher UPS. When Bai Zhenhai heard this, he was stunned. But won't we be disobeying their order by doing this? Of course I know we will be disobeying orders, but if President Zhou is handed over to the higher UPS, there are only two choices. Either he will be imprisoned for life or his Danshan will be destroyed. Other than that, I don't know how the higher UPS will deal with President Zhou. Zhou said with an ugly expression. No way, President Zhou didn't do anything to harm the humans. Why would the higher UPS? Bai Zhenhai drew a cold breath. He originally thought that even if he captured President Zhou, they would only arrest him to understand the situation. The worst that could happen was to strip and seal the power of the Genesis rune. That was all. However, he did not expect such a situation. Humph, do you think humans are united? I can tell you that someone has already targeted President Zhou. After saying this, Zhou did not say anything and directly left the first spatial rift. Bai Zhenhai followed behind, feeling shocked and unable to calm down for a long time. Zhou did not know about this. He changed into other equipment and secretly arrived at the 12th spatial rift. The 1000 feather armor needed to be repaired, and there was only one place that could repair it. He needed the essence energy ancestral stones. Zhou did not look for the Iron Bone Bear King this time and secretly slipped in. On the way, Zhou asked Little Yu. I can bring you to a place with sufficient essence energy, but do you have a way to repair yourself? The essence energy ancestral stone mine was inside the spatial rift. With Zhou's ability, he couldn't enter and couldn't withstand the pressure. Master, if you can find such a place, I can recover by myself. Zhou heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this. Soon, they arrived. Zhou looked at the chaotic spatial aura here and did not continue forward. Instead, he took out the 1000 feather armor. It's right in front. See if there's any way. If not, we'll discuss it at length. Zhou said directly. After all, he had spent countless Heaven Dao coins and more than 100 million luck points to obtain this 1,000 feather armor. If it got stuck in the spatial rift, wouldn't he lose a lot? However, what shocked Zhou was that after the 1,000 feather armor saw the essence energy ancestral stone mine, it directly entered with a whoosh. That speed was so fast that even Zhou was shocked. Moreover, its resistance to pressure was also extremely strong. Despite being torn by so many spatial rifts, it was still not injured at all. It clearly looked like scrap metal, but it was actually so powerful. This made Zhou extremely excited. It's clearly still in a ruined state. If it recovers, won't it be even more powerful? Moreover, it's only 1/8 of its original state. If it completely recovers, the ability of this 1,000 feather armor is unbelievable. Chapter 374, Greedy Zhou. The moment the 1,000 feather armor entered, Zhou did not stand there foolishly. Instead, he found a place to hide. The Iron Bone Bear King had said that someone was paying attention to this place. If they discovered that the essence energy ancestral stones had disappeared too quickly, someone would definitely notice it. There was no doubt that the person who could make the Iron Bone Bear King tremble in fear was a Heaven Realm expert. Little you, absorb as much as you can. If anyone comes, we'll run away immediately. Zhou did not forget to remind Little you before waiting quietly. After the 1,000 feather armor entered, its entire body immediately emitted this silver-white light, covering the essence energy ancestral stone in a radius of 5 kilometers. At this moment, Little you was like a bottomless pit as it absorbed crazily. Endless essence energy surged out, and many essence energy ancestral stones directly exploded, turning into pure energy that was absorbed by Little you. Repair rate 1%. Repair rate 3%. Repair rate 7%. At this moment, Zhou also sensed the state of the 1,000 feather armor. As long as it reached 30%, it would be activated, and it would no longer be in a cooling down state. Zhou was filled with anticipation, but at the same time, he also became nervous. Not long after, the repair speed had already reached 15%. It was already halfway to 30%. Zhou was feeling nervous. At the same time, in the deepest part of the 12th spatial rift, in a palace under the ground, a long insect that stretched as far as the eye could see was lying on the ground. It seemed to be resting, and its panting sounded like rolling thunder with a mighty momentum. Its aura was incomparably powerful, condensing endless essence energy around it. As it breathed, space shattered. Heaven Realm. This demon beast was a Heaven Realm expert and a famous 100 Insect King. The 5th grade Heaven Realm 100 Insect King was guarding the 12th spatial rift. Although it rarely attacked, its reputation was not only known by the foreign races, but even the humans had heard of it. At this moment, it was resting. However, at this moment, a light suddenly flashed, making the 100 Insect King open its eyes. It lowered its head and took out an instrument from its 100 feet. The numbers on it were actually slowing down visibly. Oh? Why did the energy feedback from the 18th Essence Energy Ancestral Stone Mine decrease so much? Could it be that the humans have invaded? The 100 Insect King could not help but think to itself. Its huge body trembled as it stretched its head out from the ground. This Essence Energy Ancestral Stone Mine is guarded by the Iron Bone Bear King. What is it doing? Its energy decreased so quickly, but it didn't even notice. What a fool! He was very angry. With a roar, his huge body directly flew into the sky, covering the sky and sun as he headed towards the Essence Energy Ancestral Stone Mine where the 12th spatial rift was. As it flew, it contacted the Iron Bone Bear King. Unfortunately, the Iron Bone Bear King was resting at this moment. It also threw its communication device to the side and ignored it. What an idiot! The 100 Insect King was furious as it sped through the air. The huge energy obliterated space, and with a bang, it was already less than 50 kilometers away. Zhou Hao's mind stirred as he immediately sensed a powerful aura coming. This aura belonged to a heaven realm expert. Indeed. Zhou Hao's expression changed. He could sense that the recovery rate had already reached 20%. He wanted to leave, but he felt that he would be missing a good opportunity. If he could not absorb 30% this time, it would be a little difficult next time. Heaven realm, with my current combat strength, I'm unable to deal with a heaven realm expert. However, what if I use my Genesis runes? Can I delay it? Zhou Hao took a deep breath and thought for a moment before reaching out his hand. Zhou Hao waved his fingers like an arm. Although it was not the full strength of a Genesis rune, Zhou Hao was still able to unleash quite a bit. If he did something with the Genesis runes, he might be able to stop it. With this in mind, Zhou Hao was about to do it when Mirongxuan spoke. You sure are bold to want to use a Genesis rune to deal with the 100 Insect King. Do you think Genesis runes are invincible? The 100 Insect King is a 5th grade Heaven Realm expert. With your mere Genesis rune strength, there is nothing you can do to it. Mirongxuan's words made Zhou Hao's expression turn somewhat ugly. However, he either had to stall for time or immediately retreat. There was no other way. Then tell me, what should we do? Zhou Hao couldn't help but ask. TCH, that's easy. Isn't your goal to let the 1000 feather armor recover? Wouldn't it be over as long as you take away all the essence energy ancestral stones here? Mirongxuan said angrily. But I can't enter at all. How can I obtain the essence energy ancestral stones? Zhou Hao was telling the truth. Since he did not dare to approach, he naturally did not dare to do anything. With the Genesis runes, this will not be difficult. After Mirongxuan finished speaking, Zhou Hao's eyes lit up. Indeed, he could use Genesis runes. As long as you don't use that much energy, you'll be fine. After Mirongxuan finished speaking, Zhou Hao did not hesitate and directly activated the Genesis rune. A strange symbol appeared in his hand. The runic seal expanded in the wind and landed in the mine. With a strange force, Zhou Hao could sense that the endless spatial fluctuations seemed to have been stopped by him. Right now. As Mirongxuan's voice resounded in Zhou Hao's heart, Zhou Hao also moved. He activated the Golden Crow escape technique under his feet and appeared in the Essence Energy Ancestral Stone Mine. With a wave of his hand, he immediately put away a large number of Essence Energy Ancestral Stones. There were more than 10,000. In fact, Zhou Hao did not even feel satisfied. He directly punched the ground, causing the entire ground to shatter. Zhou Hao did not care about the Essence Energy Ancestral Stone or the broken ores. He kept them all. This scene made Mirongxuan really have a helpless expression when he saw it. He thought to himself that this brat sure was greedy. Not only did he take the Essence Energy Ancestral Stone, but he also did not even leave behind the ores and moved them all away. Let's go quickly. That aura is getting closer and closer. If we don't leave now, it'll be too late. Mirongxuan was somewhat anxious. That was a 5th grade Heaven Realm expert. With Zhou Hao's current level, he was simply unable to resist. Zhou Hao naturally knew this. After taking away most of the items here, he put away the 1000 feather armor and disappeared. Just as he left, space shattered and a towering huge figure appeared in the sky. When it saw the mess, its eyes widened and its expression was extremely ugly. Damn it! It roared angrily and shattered the forest, causing the 12th spatial rift to tremble. Zhou Hao, who had just left, felt his heart race. He hurriedly took off his clothes and landed in his room, blocking all his aura. The arrival of the 100 Insect King also made the entire 12th spatial rift seem as if it was facing a formidable enemy. Just as Zhu returned, he sensed the aura of the 100 Insect King. His expression changed, and he also appeared in the sky above the 12th spatial rift. He looked at the 100 Insect King in shock. Chapter 375, 7 Days Training. Zhou Hao naturally ignored this. After all, he had already obtained the item. He did not care. At this moment, he appeared in his room and directly took out the 1000 feather armor to let it continue absorbing the essence energy ancestral stone. Soon, the recovery rate of 30% ended. In Zhou Hao's eyes, the tattered 1000 feather armor instantly became brand new, turning into an armor with an extraordinary aura that emitted waves of powerful aura. Zhou Hao was very shocked. At this moment, Little Yu's voice also appeared in Zhou Hao's mind. Master, Little Yu has recovered 30%. Do you want to continue repairing it? Zhou Hao was very excited. He coughed dryly and looked at the remaining 10,000 essence energy ancestral stones and the large piece of earth meridian. He was in a good mood. Go ahead. Zhou Hao chuckled. The aura of this 1000 feather armor was really extraordinary. Zhou Hao was very excited to see what would happen if it was fully repaired. At this moment, the horn of the training camp sounded. Zhou Hao hurriedly walked out of the room and arrived at the square with Su Ling and the others. At this moment, the members of the 7 teams gathered. Chief Instructor Bai Linglong looked at them coldly. There have been some changes in the past few days. From now on, cultivation will continue. The second mission is to enter the 13th spatial rift for 7 days. However, there's something I want to say first. I won't be following you on this mission. I don't want to lie to you either. Your lives will be in danger. However, for your safety, everyone will have a spatial teleportation device. If you can't take it anymore, press the switch and you will be teleported here. However, in that case, it can also be considered as quitting the mission. The assessment this time is mainly about training. However, since it's training, there are rewards. And the rewards are naturally based on points. After Bai Linglong finished speaking, she directly handed everyone a small device. This item was connected to the spatial array here. As long as one pressed the switch, they would be quickly sent here. Moreover, this small device could also record everyone's points. The points obtained were not only limited to killing mutated beasts, but also the time spent inside. After a comprehensive comparison, there would be an assessment. It seemed very fair. After all, if the assessment was only based on time, couldn't they just find a place to hide and survive for 7 days? Therefore, to prevent anyone from being sly, Bai Linglong set this points rule. Although it was still not perfect, there was nothing wrong with it. The points this time will be a one-on-one battle. Whether or not you guys work together will depend on how your team chooses. However, the final evaluation will be based on each person's points. This rule will be fixed and the scoring will be different from last time. Do you understand? Bai Linglong finished speaking in one breath, making the people of the 7 teams somewhat nervous. Among them, the one with the highest cultivation level was only a Grand Master. Compared to supernatural experts, he was still lacking. The humans were no match for the mutated beasts to begin with, as they couldn't compete with the mutated beasts at the same level as them at all. There were still many high-level mutated beasts in the spatial rift, so they were really somewhat worried. True growth is experiencing life and death. Without experiencing life and death, how can you talk about growth? A greenhouse flower is not suitable for us or this era. Therefore, since you have chosen this path, you don't have to worry. After Bai Linglong finished speaking, she looked at everyone and said directly. All right, the teleportation array is activated. Go in. Bai Linglong waved her hand, and the fluctuations of teleportation immediately appeared in the square. In the next second, before they could react, the light scattered, and their figures directly disappeared from this platform. When they reappeared, they had already arrived at the 13th spatial rift. However, all of them had been teleported alone. In other words, everyone from the 7 teams was alone at this moment. Bai Linglong failed to mention that the test did not only test their strength, but also their temperament. After all, they were all fighting for themselves and were from different teams. In this chaotic world, no one knew if they would support each other or if they would try to trick each other. This was a decision each one of them would have to make on their own. It would also reflect their characters. However, Zhou and the others did not know about this. At this moment, when they appeared in the 13th spatial rift alone, everyone except for Zhou became nervous. Even the Grand Masters of the other teams were the same. Su Ling looked at the barren surroundings and the dangerous aura. Her pretty face changed at first, but then she immediately hid her aura and found a relatively safe place to hide. It was not only her. The others were the same. Zhang Yi, Yuan Cheng, Yun Yan, Fang Yu, and the others were all the same. Only Zhou's expression did not change when he appeared. All his attention was focused on the 1,000-feather armor. However, in order to look more convincing, Zhou immediately put on his armor, took out his saber, and hid. Everyone should have been teleported separately. Although everyone has a teleportation device, I still have to find Su Ling and the others as soon as possible. Zhou frowned. He did not know if anyone was watching this place, so he did not dare to use his true cultivation. Instead, he controlled his aura to that of a master and carefully advanced. Zhou had been to the 13th spatial rift several times and knew a little about the terrain here. However, the 13th spatial rift was too huge, and even Zhou did not know everything. He identified his location and could only start searching. The 13th spatial rift is very large. It probably won't be easy for me to find them aimlessly. Instead of finding them alone, I might as well think of a way to get someone to help me. An idea flashed in Zhou's eyes. As long as he captured some mutated beasts and got their help, he might be able to find Su Ling and the others quickly. With this in mind, Zhou took action. At this moment, Bai Linglong was sitting cross-legged on the square. She connected her mental awareness to the device and instantly covered the 13th spatial rift with her divine sense. In an instant, a huge map appeared in front of her. There were more than 40 small green dots on it, representing Zhou and the others. The countless red dots around them were mutated beasts. The higher UPS attached great importance to the 13th spatial rift. Basically, the most advanced detectors were also used here. Bai Linglong looked at these small green dots. With a thought, she could tell their current situation and identity through the teleportation device on their bodies. Although she had said that she wouldn't intervene, she still wouldn't really ignore them when it was a matter of life and death. These rising stars of the human race were the strength they could rely on in the future. Every Grand Master they nurtured cost a lot of money, not to mention talent. Therefore, unless it was absolutely necessary, Bai Linglong naturally would not let them fall into danger. However, at this moment, she suddenly blinked and opened a small green dot. She was stunned for a moment. Zhou? What is he trying to do? Instead of familiarizing himself with the terrain and finding his other companions, he decided to kill the mutated beasts. Chapter 376, The Temperament of a General. Bai Linglong had a surprised expression. Moreover, she frowned when she saw the group of mutated beasts. This brat actually dared to provoke a Grand Master level flying goo worm? Does he have a death wish? Zhou's strength was only at the master level, and the combat strength of those flying goo worms was at the Grand Master level. Moreover, the most important thing was that these flying goo worms were insect kings. They had many master-level flying goo worms under them and countless flying goo worms that had just hatched from the ordinary martial artist level. If Zhou fought them alone, he would definitely die. Bai Linglong's expression was not very good. She still had expectations for Zhou. After all, this little guy's master was President Zhou. But now, it seemed that although this boy had talent, he did not seem to have a brain. At this moment, Zhou was holding a long saber and had already found the flying goo worm. The reason why Zhou found the flying goo worm was because he was interested in the flying goo worm king's many underlings. Moreover, the flying goo insect king had absolute control over its other underlings. In other words, if Zhou controlled the flying goo insect king, it would be equivalent to having a good group of pawns that could help him find Su Ling and the others. Although the Flying Goo Insect King's intelligence was not high, seeing a mere human dare to come in front of them with such fanfare, it naturally would not tolerate it. It directly controlled its underling to tear Zhou Hao apart. Zhou Hao snorted. Although he did not want to use too much combat strength, with his master-level cultivation and the strength of a grandmaster, it was still acceptable. Therefore, Zhou Hao did not hesitate at all. As his saber swept out, countless flying goo worms were directly cut off, and Zhou Hao also went straight for the Flying Goo Insect King. The Flying Goo Insect King screamed when it saw this scene. It did not expect this human to be so arrogant and even dare to kill its underling in front of it. Most importantly, he even dared to challenge him. Did he not want his life? Accompanied by a sharp cry, the Flying Goo Insect King directly flapped its wings and released a powerful strength as it slashed towards Zhou Hao. Zhou Hao's figure was strange, and his footsteps were elusive. In addition to the long saber in his hand, his combat strength was very high. He instantly fought back. What a powerful combat talent! Moreover, this saber technique has definitely received President Zhou's true teachings. Bai Linglong was immediately surprised when she saw this. It had to be said that this saber technique was used to perfection. Even Bai Linglong had not used any cultivation technique to such an extreme when she was a master. As expected of a disciple taught by President Zhou. Sigh. Bai Linglong sighed. Thinking of President Zhou, she felt as if a huge rock was pressing down on her heart. Of course, she knew what the higher UPS intended to do and was very indignant. However, like Heavenly King Zhou and the others, she had no choice but to pray that President Zhou was safe and sound. At this moment, under Zhou Hao's Shadow 7 sabers, even the Grandmaster Flying Goo Insect King was suppressed to the point of being unable to fight back. This scene was really shocking. He clearly only had a master-level cultivation, but the combat strength he erupted with was comparable to a Grandmaster. Flying Goo Insect King, you should be able to understand what I mean. Submit or die, choose for yourself. Zhou Hao held the long saber in his hand and was in high spirits. If not for his hidden cultivation, the Flying Goo Insect King would have definitely disappeared with a single slash. Although the Flying Goo Insect King did not have high intelligence, it still knew what Zhou Hao meant. It flapped its wings and revealed hostility. Zhou Hao knew that if he used brute force, although he could subdue it, it would still be ineffective. He had to use both force and grace. The intelligence of mutated beasts was very low. They would instinctively go against humans. They didn't mind dying. After all, it did not have the high intelligence of the Iron Bone Bear King. However, if Zhou Hao took out something it liked, it would naturally be tempted. Zhou Hao knew very well that this was the nature of mutated beasts. I can kill you, but I need you to help me do something now. This item is a rare level energy bar and is very useful to you mutated beasts. If you help me, I can give you more of this. However, if you don't help me, I can only kill you. As Zhou Hao spoke, he threw the rare level energy bar over. When the Flying Goo Insect King received it, it immediately revealed a covetous gaze, making it look like a human. It flapped its wings and greedily absorbed it, feeling very happy. Zhou Hao just watched and did not disturb it. As long as the other party liked the energy bars, they could discuss anything. However, if it was greedy, Zhou Hao naturally would not let it off. After the Flying Goo Insect King absorbed it, it looked at Zhou Hao greedily. After absorbing it, it knew how useful this item was to it and naturally wanted more. However, it also understood that this human in front of it was not someone it could resist at all. Therefore, it was not in a hurry to attack. Zhou Hao smiled and took out a few rare level energy bars. I still have more. However, you have to submit to me. Otherwise, I won't give it to you. I'll even kill you. Zhou Hao's killing intent and saber intent made the Flying Goo Insect King instinctively reveal a trace of fear. Perhaps it was because of Zhou Hao's pressure, or perhaps it was because of the temptation of that thing, a change occurred. The flying goo insect king pondered for a moment and directly prostrated on the ground, revealing its intention to submit. Zhou Hao immediately smiled when he saw this. Very good. Zhou Hao's body moved directly as he stood on the flying goo insect king's huge head and directly threw it another energy bar. I need to find some humans in the 13th spatial rift. If you find one, I'll give you one. After Zhou Hao finished speaking, the flying goo insect king immediately screamed. The dense flying goo worms immediately received the order and scattered. Seeing this scene, Bai Linglong finally reacted. It turned out that this was actually Zhou Hao's plan. How smart! Flying goo worms have always respected their insect king's orders and obeyed them without resistance. Moreover, flying goo worms have a strong reproductive ability and can be said to be pervasive. This is indeed a creative solution. Bai Linglong revealed a look of praise. She did not feel that Zhou Hao's methods were unpresentable. Instead, she felt that Zhou Hao's actions had greatly reduced his danger. At the same time, he could also achieve his goal. After all, any situation could happen in a battle between humans and mutated beasts. Sometimes, combat strength could not decide everything and creative solutions were also very important. At this moment, the others were either hiding or killing mutated beasts to exchange for points. Even the grandmasters of the other teams relied on brute force to find their other companions. However, at this moment, not only was Zhou Hao the most effective, but he was also the fastest to find the others. No wonder President Zhou took him in as a disciple. He's bright and even has the temperament of a general. Chapter 377, Accept the Challenge. Bai Linglong was shocked. She naturally had her reasons. Compared to the others, Zhou Hao's performance was indeed remarkable. The training in the 13th spatial rift was still ongoing. At this moment, after Su Ling pulled her sword out of the Grand Master level beast's body, she heaved a sigh of relief and sat on the ground. Although Su Ling was in a lot of danger when she entered, danger was still everywhere in the 13th spatial rift. Moreover, she did not want to hide forever. She had her pride. Therefore, after adjusting her state, Su Ling began hunting the beasts. Su Ling had her own plans when she did things. Usually, she would only take action after figuring out the mutated beast's weaknesses. Therefore, she had also dealt with a few other Grand Master level mutated beasts safely. Glancing at her points, Su Ling took a deep breath. She was not excited at all. Instead, she was a little anxious. I wonder how they're doing. Su Ling was still most worried about Zhou Hao and the others. Although Zhou Hao was very powerful, he was still only a master. She was even more worried about Yunyan and Fang Yu. However, the 13th spatial rift was still too vast. It was easier said than done to find Zhou Hao and the others. As she was thinking, her expression suddenly changed. She felt a powerful fluctuation sweep over, and her expression immediately turned ugly. Without saying a word, Su Ling directly activated her ice muscle body. The surrounding temperature instantly fell. Without hesitation, she waved her long sword and released an ice aura. At this moment, a furry paw stretched out from the ground and slapped fiercely at Su Ling. Su Ling snorted coldly and her long sword danced in the air. Waves of cold energy exploded. The ice muscle body was a special trait and was extremely extraordinary. In addition, Su Ling's cultivation was already at the Grand Master level, so she was incomparably powerful. With a single slash, the furry paw was directly cut off. However, no blood surged out. The wound was neat and there was not a drop of blood. Roar! An angry roar sounded directly as a huge white bear crawled out from the ground. Its blood-red eyes and burly body looked incomparably mighty. Su Ling frowned when she saw this mutated beast, and her expression was solemn. White Ice Fur Bear Peak Level Grandmaster. Why is it here? Su Ling's body retreated directly. She had just been ambushed by it. Fortunately, Su Ling was skilled and her ice muscle body was powerful, allowing her to cut off its arm. However, this did not mean that this white ice fur bear was trash. On the contrary, it had ambushed her just now. However, its true ability was also to control the ice and snowstorm. This was the talent of this mutated beast. Su Ling took a deep breath. She did not know if her ice muscle body was stronger or if this white ice fur bear's talent was stronger. However, at this moment, she was targeted by it and it would not be easy for her to escape. A matchup between the ice muscle body and the white ice fur bear with intermediate level bloodline is quite interesting. Although Su Ling's ice muscle body has been awakened for a long time, the ice muscle body is originally precious. Since ancient times, there have not been many martial artists who have awakened this bloodline. Therefore, she will need to figure out her combat style herself. Now that she's fighting this white ice fur bear, perhaps it will bring her a lot of growth. However, the danger is just. Bai Linglong narrowed her eyes and looked at the battle between Su Ling and the white ice fur bear. Her expression became slightly worried. The white ice fur bear with its paw cut off was very furious. It originally wanted to sneak up and kill this human, but it did not expect this human to be so powerful. The sword in its hand was also incomparably sharp, directly cutting off its paw. It was extremely furious, and its eyes were scarlet as it roared. As it spoke, its body directly shot up. Cold air spread from its huge body. With a wave of its hand, a large ice crystal appeared in the air and was hurled fiercely at Su Ling. Su Ling did not hesitate. She suddenly swung the long sword in her hand and a ripple slashed over, condensing into an ice cube in the air. Amidst the rumbling, be it ice or ice crystals, they were all shattered. A large amount of cold air spread out. Surrounded by the white fog, Su Ling did not lower her guard. She held her long sword in her hand and paid attention to the aura around her. It was also at this moment that she raised her sword and stabbed forward fiercely. With a bang, a huge piece of ice was directly pierced by her. In the next second, the huge white ice fur bear appeared behind her, raised its huge fist, and punched fiercely. Su Ling snorted. She had long sensed that this white ice fur bear had some intelligence and knew to feign attacks to surprise her from behind. However, this bit of intelligence was still too trivial in front of humans. The ice aura on Su Ling's body was generous. With a bang, a huge aura exploded. The sword in her hand split into two, then into three, and finally divided into countless pieces. Ice art ice rain descends. She shouted and used the cultivation technique she had practiced for a long time. This cultivation technique was bought by his family with a huge sum of money. It was very compatible with the ice muscle body. Su Ling had a very high compatibility with it. In addition, she had been training hard. The moment she used this cultivation technique, she was incomparably powerful. Countless ice swords turned into raindrops and smashed fiercely. From afar, it looked like a downpour. It was very extraordinary. The white ice fur bear immediately roared repeatedly. As it roared, it was struck by the countless sword rain, causing wounds to appear and blood to flow out. The physique of the mutated beasts was powerful, but no matter how powerful they would probably be severely injured if they encountered such a technique. Su Ling snorted and did not show any mercy. Her sword hung high above her head with a majestic aura, as if a queen had arrived. Ice art ice fall sword. As soon as she finished speaking, a huge sword condensed and the surrounding ice aura attached to it instantly became a huge ice sword. This was Su Ling's strongest trump card. Although it was powerful, it also consumed a lot of energy. However, at this moment, the white ice fur bear was in an opening. She wanted to take this opportunity to end the battle. The huge ice sword fell directly with a bang and slashed fiercely at the white ice fur bear. A bang sounded, and it turned into an invisible storm that swept in all directions. The white ice fur bear roared repeatedly. Half of its body was slashed by the long sword, revealing its white bones. Blood flowed down like a waterfall. It probably wouldn't be able to live like this. Death was only a matter of time. Su Ling landed on the ground and panted heavily. She was somewhat unable to handle this huge consumption. Fortunately, after dealing with this troublesome guy, she should be able to recover if she moved carefully after this. However, things did not go according to her wishes. At this moment, an aura that made Su Ling's heart palpitate spread over. In the next second, before she could react, an incomparably thick tail wrapped around the white ice fur bear. Then, a huge python appeared and bit the white ice fur bear's neck, sucking blood in large mouthfuls. The python's aura also suddenly increased. This is the bloodthirsty berserk python. Su Ling's expression finally changed. Chapter 378, Saving the Day. While Su Ling was fighting, Zhou was squatting on the flying goo insect king with his eyes closed. The flying goo insect king below did not dare to move rashly, not only because it was afraid of Zhou, but also because it wanted to obtain the energy bar from Zhou. Not long after, many weak flying goo insect kings returned and transmitted the information. The flying goo insect king also told Zhou the information. It even released its mental strength for Zhou to check. Zhou closed his eyes. He did see a few members from other teams, but he did not see a single member of his team. He became somewhat anxious. Continue searching. Keep an eye on these people for me. If you find anything, tell me immediately. Zhou also gave the flying goo insect king information about Su Ling and the others. The latter immediately understood and screamed for the many small flying insects to search. Zhou did not move. He was waiting here. As long as he found traces of Su Ling and the others, he would not hesitate to go. As time passed, Zhou became more and more anxious. Unfortunately, the 13th spatial rift was too big, and some of them were even hiding. It was not easy to find them. Zhou could only endure his temper and slowly search. The more anxious he was, the more uneasy he became. Perhaps because it could sense Zhou's current mood, the flying goo insect king prostrated itself on the ground and did not dare to move. Soon, another hour passed, and a large number of flying goo worms returned. The news made Zhou's expression change. Bloodthirsty berserk python. Zhou's heart sank when he saw the scene transmitted to him by the small flying insect. After learning that Su Ling was fighting a bloody battle, he immediately made the flying goo insect king fly towards the bloodthirsty berserk python without any hesitation. At this moment, Su Ling's heart trembled as she looked at the huge bloodthirsty berserk python. This mutated beast was the most vicious and sinister. It did not care if it was dealing with humans or mutated beasts. As long as it could increase its cultivation, it would swallow the other party. It had probably noticed Su Ling when she was fighting the white ice fur bear just now. The reason why it did not appear was because it was waiting for an opportunity. It wanted to take advantage of the situation. It had to be said that it had seized the perfect opportunity. The white ice fur bear had already been exhausted after it was destroyed by its sword. Clearly, in its exhausted state, it was unable to resist this bloodthirsty berserk python. Without saying a word, Su Ling prepared to escape. However, how could the bloodthirsty berserk python give Su Ling any chance to escape? It used its tail to support the corpse of the white ice fur bear. At this moment, the white ice fur bear had already lost most of its blood essence. It was basically dead, and its body had become thin. The python held the bear with its tail and did not forget to suck its blood essence. At the same time, it grabbed at Su Ling fiercely. Su Ling had just exhausted herself and did not expect a second mutated beast to arrive. This made her unable to guard against it at all. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have been so greedy to kill the white ice fur bear. Now that I've consumed a lot of energy, I'm simply not its match. Moreover, this python will only be even more difficult to deal with than the white ice fur bear. Su Ling's face was pale, not only because she had just consumed too much energy, but also because she was afraid. The threat of death made her nervous. In the end, she was still only a girl. Although she was not inferior to men, she still needed time. The bloodthirsty python behind her was not in a hurry. In the 13th spatial rift, there were mutated beasts everywhere. As a Grand Master, its combat strength was top-notch. Ordinary mutated beasts were simply not its match. They would even hide when they smelled its aura. It was chasing after Su Ling with a teasing look in its eyes and was in no hurry to eat her. It was taking its time. The white ice fur bear was already on the verge of death. Its life force quickly melted. Not long after, the blood in its body was completely absorbed. The bloodthirsty berserk python directly threw it to the ground and roared. Its aura suddenly soared. It was only half a step away from becoming a supernatural expert. The evolution of mutated beasts was very simple. As long as one devoured the bloodlines of other powerful mutated beasts, they would break through. Of course, there were also mutated beasts that relied on cultivation and absorbing the heaven and earth spirit treasures. However, there were also many brutal mutated beasts that directly devoured other mutated beasts. The bloodthirsty python was such a mutated beast. It was already ferocious to begin with and its bloodline was already extraordinary. As long as it carefully matured, breaking through to the supernatural level was not a problem. This was also one of the reasons why it did not leave the 13th spatial rift. It wanted to devour most of the powerful mutated beasts in the 13th spatial rift and become a supernatural expert. However, it did not expect to encounter humans. Moreover, it was a human who was capable of fighting a Grand Master level beast. This made it extremely happy. Just now, it almost couldn't help but attack. Now that it had absorbed the essence blood of the white ice fur bear, it was even stronger. However, it also knew that this human in front of it was the true delicacy. Not only was her flesh delicious, but it was also because the energy contained in her bloodline was much richer than the white ice fur bear. After absorbing the white ice fur bear, the bloodthirsty berserk python was no longer playful. Its body rushed forward, opened its bloody mouth, and directly pounced to swallow Su Ling. Su Ling circulated her cultivation and her ice muscle body exploded, condensing into ice crystals around her as she tried to block the bloodthirsty berserk python's figure. The bloodthirsty python's body was originally incomparably agile. In addition to the scales on its body, its defense was even more shocking than the white ice fur bear. It dodged most of the ice crystals. Although many of them landed on its body, they did not cause any damage. Its huge tail swung directly, raising an explosive sound in the air. Its speed was even surprisingly fast, directly blocking behind Su Ling. Su Ling condensed an ice wall behind her, but she was still hit firmly. The ice wall shattered, and she suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. The battle just now had already left her exhausted. Now, she had suffered a direct hit, making it impossible for her to fight. Her face was pale as she looked at the bloodthirsty berserk python, her face filled with grief. Could it be that she really had to die here today? Or should she really quit this assessment? Su Ling was somewhat unwilling to give up, but she still took out the teleportation device and was prepared to press it at any moment. However, at this moment, a black shadow fell and covered the sky. She suddenly looked up and saw a huge flying goo insect king circling in the air. At the same time, a sharp saber aura shot out from the flying goo insect king's head and directly attacked the bloodthirsty berserk python. This scene stunned her for a moment, but in the next second, her pretty face was immediately filled with joy. This was because she saw a thin figure above the flying goo insect king. Chapter 379, Insta-kill. Zhou stood on the flying goo insect king as a powerful saber aura whistled from the sky, slashing at the bloodthirsty berserk python. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Zhou soared into the air and landed in front of Su Ling. Seeing that she was fine, he felt a lingering fear. The bloodthirsty berserk python was originally powerful and had a violent personality. Moreover, Su Ling was clearly exhausted. If he did not arrive in time, the situation would definitely be very bad. Fortunately, he arrived in time. Zhou heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly said, "Are you all right? Are you injured?" "A little, but it's nothing serious." Su Ling smiled sweetly. The moment she saw Zhou, she was no longer afraid. It was as if this man in front of her could lift up the sky. "All right, give me a second to handle this." As Zhou spoke, he took out a rare level energy bar and handed it to Su Ling. Then, he held a long saber and slashed at the bloodthirsty berserk python. Saving a damsel in distress. Interesting. Bai Linglong had been paying attention to this area. Seeing that Su Ling was no longer in danger, she also relaxed. However, she was still curious as to how Zhou could deal with the bloodthirsty berserk python. This mutated beast was not like the flying goo insect king. In the 13th spatial rift, its strength was top-notch and was already halfway to becoming a supernatural expert. As for Zhou, he was only a peak-level master. It was easy to tell who was stronger at a glance. Zhou naturally knew this as well. Although his Shadow 7 sabers was very powerful, it was still not enough for him to kill the other party with his master-level cultivation. Therefore, Zhou took a deep breath and prepared to use the god-slaying art. Since they all knew that his master was President Zhou, there was nothing to be afraid of, right? Moreover, they might not necessarily know the god-slaying art. Thinking of this, Zhou secretly circulated the god-slaying art. His aura immediately became stronger, directly jumping levels to the level of a grandmaster. The god-slaying art could increase one's cultivation level. Although there was a price to pay, it was almost negligible for Zhou. Zhou's instantaneous increase in aura stunned Bai Linglong. She carefully looked at Zhou's aura and could not help but be surprised. "Is this President Zhou's god-slaying art? I heard that the god-slaying art can increase one's combat strength. I didn't expect President Zhou to give this cultivation technique to Zhou. Moreover, this Zhou's talent is too good. He actually learned the god-slaying art. He's simply a monster. Not everyone could cultivate the god-slaying art. If that was the case, this cultivation technique would have long been a necessary cultivation technique for humans. It was precisely because it was extremely difficult to cultivate that very few people used it. The price was very high, and under normal circumstances, no one would cultivate it. However, be it Zhou or President Zhou, they had both successfully cultivated it. This was something Bai Linglong did not expect. President Zhou takes such good care of this Zhou. Could it be that the two of them are not just master and disciple? President Zhou's surname is also Zhou like Zhou. Could they be relatives? Of course, Bai Linglong knew Zhou's background. When Zhou and the others entered the school, their identities had been verified countless times. Moreover, they had been verified an extra time after they arrived at the training camp. Even his 3 generations of ancestors had been investigated thoroughly. This was the rule of the human race. Only in this way could they investigate everyone's background and prevent them from being spies sent by the foreign races to endanger the human race. President Zhou's identity has always been a mystery. No one has seen what he looks like, and no one knows who he is. Even I don't know much. However, judging from his situation with Zhou, this Zhou is definitely not an ordinary person. Otherwise, he wouldn't have taught everything he learned to Zhou. Bai Linglong took a deep breath and felt that something was wrong. We can't let the higher UPS know about this. Otherwise, they might pay a visit to Zhou. As Bai Linglong spoke, she directly opened the system interface and erased the scene of Zhou using the god-slaying art. Her goal was to protect Zhou and President Zhou. Zhou's aura instantly stepped into the Grandmaster level. This scene stunned Su Ling. Immediately after, Zhou used the Shadow 7 sabers, and a powerful saber aura instantly erupted. Without any hesitation, the bloodthirsty berserk python was instantly killed. Blood instantly spread out. Under the blood rain, Zhou's figure appeared incomparably cold and domineering. Su Ling also did not expect Zhou Hao to be so powerful that he could instantly kill the bloodthirsty berserk python with a single slash. At this moment, Zhou Hao had also dissipated the god-slaying art, and his aura had returned to the master level. What secret technique is this? It can actually increase your cultivation instantly. Su Ling was shocked and couldn't help but cover her mouth. The Su family was also a large family. Su Ling still knew about such secret techniques. All of them were precious items. She had never expected Zhou Hao to have such a precious cultivation technique. My master taught it to me. Zhou Hao chuckled. Hearing this, Su Ling naturally understood. That was President Zhou, known to be the #1 person under the heaven realm. It was nothing for him to give Zhou Hao such a cultivation technique. How was it? Did I impress you just now? Did I capture Miss Su's heart? Zhou Hao was overjoyed. Seeing that Su Ling was fine, he was in a good mood and could not help but joke. Can you be more serious? Although Su Ling said this, her pretty face was red. In her heart, she could not forget the godlike figure of Zhou Hao from just now. At this moment, the flying goo insect king landed on the ground with a bang. Su Ling jumped and subconsciously entered a combat-prepared state. Don't be nervous. This flying goo insect king can already be considered as my mount. If not for it, I wouldn't have been able to find you, Zhou Hao immediately said. Ah! Su Ling's eyes widened in disbelief. I tamed it. The flying goo insect king can command all its underlings. Therefore, I got them to help find you. Zhou Hao smiled and threw a rare level energy bar to the flying goo insect king. The latter was now completely frightened by Zhou Hao's strength. Moreover, it really needed a rare level energy bar, so it was exceptionally obedient and prostrated on the ground without moving. Let's go. I've also found Yunyan and the others. Let's gather them first. Zhou Hao held Su Ling's hand, and the latter said worriedly, Are we going to ride this? Su Ling was a little worried. With me around, what is there to worry about? Don't worry, it's very intelligent. It should know that going against us will not only not be beneficial to it, but it will also lose its life. Only by helping us can it obtain the energy bar it wants. What does that mean? Anything that can be resolved with money is not a problem. Zhou Hao smiled and Su Ling was speechless. However, it had to be said that Zhou Hao's method shocked Su Ling. She would have never thought of such a thing. Chapter 380, Breaking Out of the Encirclement. Zhou Hao looked at Su Ling's surprised expression and smiled. All right, let's make the best use of our time and find them all. After all, you're the only grandmaster in our team. You're the one with the best cultivation. Su Ling looked at him angrily. You're so humble. Remind me again, who was the one that killed the bloodthirsty berserk python? Zhou Hao chuckled and did not say anything else. He hugged her waist and directly jumped onto the flying goo insect king, speeding away. The flying goo insect king sent me a message. It found Yunyan and Fang Yu. I'm somewhat surprised that they're together. Zhou Hao had also just learned about it. Not only did he know about Yunyan and Fang Yu's location, he had also learned where Yuan Cheng and Zhang Yi were through the flying goo insect king. Yuan Cheng's escaping ability was not bad and he was still safe. Although Zhang Yi had lost some weight and was injured, he had still hidden himself. On the other hand, Fang Yu and Yunyan were not in a good state. If they did not rush over now, there would probably be problems later. Then let's go quickly. To be honest, I'm most worried about Yunyan and Fang Yu. Su Ling said nervously. Zhou Hao could not help but ask, What? Aren't you worried about me? Su Ling rolled her eyes at him. Of the few of us, you have the highest combat strength. Why should I worry about you? Humph. Zhou Hao sighed and did not say anything. The two of them sat on the flying goo insect king and sped in the same direction. At that moment, Yunyan and Fang Yu were hiding in a valley. In this valley, there was a cave. The two of them were hiding there, and the valley was densely filled with mutated beasts. Although these mutated beasts were not very powerful, not far from them lay a grey wolf beast the size of an elephant. This was the leader of the wolf beast group, and this was also their hideout. Fang Yun and Yun Yan were actually separated when they arrived at the 13th spatial rift, but they were very close. As soon as Yun Yan entered, she encountered a group of mutated beasts. She used all her strength to escape and encountered Fang Yu, who was also in a sorry state. The two of them traveled together and were in an even more sorry state. They hid everywhere and found a place to hide. They originally thought they could heave a sigh of relief after finding shelter in a cave, but who knew that they would discover that this was actually the hideout of the wolf beasts. This made them extremely depressed. They originally wanted to find a safe place to resupply and find the others, but they were directly trapped here. What should we do? What should we do? We can't get out of here. Do we have to endure for 7 days like this? Yun Yan was wearing close-fitting armor, revealing her perfect figure. Fang Yu also sighed and said helplessly, "It's all your fault for insisting on coming to this cave. Great, now we're trapped. I don't think you're allowed to blame me. If not for me dragging you here just now, you would have been eaten by the anteater beast." Yun Yan said angrily. "That's not true. I still have a lot of powerful equipment I haven't used yet." Fang Yu snorted. "What should we do now? Do we really have to stay here for 7 days?" Yun Yan sighed and could not be bothered to argue with Fang Yu. "It can't be helped. If we go out, we'll definitely be torn to pieces. That Ash Wolf King is at the Grandmaster level," Fang Yu said gloomily. Yun Yan leaned against the stone wall of the cave and couldn't help but say, "If only Zhou Hao and Su Ling were here. The two of them would definitely be able to deal with this mutated beast." Hearing this, Fang Yu nodded, but she also said worriedly, "This place is filled with danger. I wonder how Zhou Hao, Su Ling, and the others are doing. Moreover, the 13th spatial rift is so huge, so how are they supposed to find us? Even if it's not them, it's fine with the other teams. After coming in for so long, I only saw you. I didn't see anyone else." Yun Yan sighed. "Instructor Bai must be paying attention to this place. Moreover, we have the teleportation device. Our safety is not a problem. However, won't we be laughed at if we stay here for 7 days without doing anything?" Fang Yu's words also struck a chord with Yun Yan. They were from the Yanjing training camp and were originally elites. However, after such a long time, they realized that they had unknowingly been caught up by Su Ling and Zhou Hao. In fact, the difference between them was increasing. "No, I can't just stay here. Even if I have to take a gamble, I have to try." Yun Yan snorted. Her pride did not allow her to do this. It was not only because she wanted to embarrass herself, but because she wanted to become stronger. "That's right. At most, we'll lose. What are we afraid of?" Fang Yuzhong nodded heavily. The two of them did not hesitate at all. "I have a few laser missiles and a few paralyzing missiles here. If we use them together, we should have a chance to kill our way out." As Fang Yu spoke, she took out the weapon from her backpack and handed it to Yun Yan. "The main problem here is that Ash Wolf King. The paralyzing missiles and the laser bullets shouldn't be able to cause much damage to it. However, after killing these wolf beasts, there's no need for us to fight it head-on. Let's just run and leave this place. How about that?" Yun Yan pointed at the distant valley exit. Fang Yu nodded in agreement. The two of them made a simple plan and began to take action. This group of wolf beasts was resting. Fang Yu and Yun Yan rushed out directly. Without a word, they threw the paralysis missile. In an instant, a loud bang sounded, directly blasting these wolf beasts into the clouds and mist. Under the effect of the paralyzing missile, their limbs were affected. As for the two of them, they were not affected at all. The two of them moved forward together and used their cultivation techniques. Fang Yu's entire body was bathed in flames. This was Fang Yu's strongest cultivation technique, the Starfire Burning Plains. Although it was not a powerful cultivation technique, it was still considered very impressive at the master level. Yunyan retracted her blood essence into her body. She replenished her limbs and meridians and was extremely powerful like a violent dragon. If Zhou Hao were here, he would definitely be shocked. He had long suspected that Yunyan had used all her cultivation to shape her body. The facts had proven that it was true. Yunyan cultivated the Overlord body art. This technique focused on cultivating one's body and enhancing one's physical strength to a certain extent. It was like a treasure and was extremely powerful. The commotion between the two of them instantly alerted the Ash Wolf King. It roared angrily, its voice surging. However, Fang Yu was already prepared. As it roared, a few laser missiles and paralysis missiles were hurled at it. After doing this, the two of them did not hesitate at all and directly began to kill these wolf beasts. They were determined to kill their way out. Fang Yu was covered in flames. Wherever she went, the wolf beasts that were already affected were instantly burned to ashes. As for Yunyan, she was even more violent. She shattered a wolf beast with a single punch. Her entire body was covered in blood, and she was like a valiant war god.